This week on Inside the Headset, we are featuring New York Jets defensive assistant Chip Vaughn. Coach Vaughn details his personal football journey, explains the motto he lives and coaches by, and discusses embracing challenges and adversity. Now, let's get inside the headset with Coach Vaughn.
Coach Vaughn, what's going on, my man?
What's going on, brother?
Not much, man. Happy to have you on. I kind of joking with you before we start recording. You know, last time I saw you were decked out in Air Force Academy gear, and life has changed a little bit for you, man.
That's right, man. Life comes at you fast, right?
That's right.
I just want to thank you for having me on, and the people at the AFCA. I want to say thank you very much.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. Well, yeah, you know, you talked about life coming at you fast. You've been blessed by this great game of football to, you know, just to be around it for a long time, both as a player and coach. Can you talk a little bit about, you know, your specific football journey and, you know, how you kind of came into this current role here with the New York Jets?
Okay. So my journey started when I was 4 years old, when I very first started to play the game. Now, everything that I've learned has came from my father. He was my coach all the way up until high school. Now, about him, he is a retired Air Force colonel. He put in 33 years. All right, so that was the type of lifestyle that I had, you know, moved around a lot. But I called Fairfax home. That's where I graduated from. I went to Robinson High School. Then I left there and I went to Wake, and I played at Wake from 04 to 08. We did some special things there. I had a great class that I came in with. Five guys in that class actually got drafted, and 3 more got signed, you know, and they're at Wake, you know, it's kind of unusual there, you know, and right. In 06, we won the ACC, you know, which was awesome. Then after my time at Wake, I got drafted by the Saints in 09, played for the Saints, Eagles, Colts, and the Panthers. I had to retire in 13. You know, I had a lot of bad injuries. Then after that, being hurt, being forced to retire, man, I actually had a bad taste for football, you know. And so I actually did not watch football. I didn't talk ball at all for about a year or two. Okay. So I'm down in Houston, Texas, and I am actually waiting on a start date from the Secret Service, right? Like I went through the whole testing process, polygraph, home test, all that stuff, you know. So I'm thinking that I'm about to be a Secret Service agent. But the high school coach found out that I played, and he stopped by my class and said, "Hey, Chip, man, what do you think about stopping by, man? You know, I'm not going to ask you to help out a lot. You know, I just kind of want to run some things by." I was like, all right, cool, right? You know, so I stopped by, man, and that turned into one day, then that was 2, that was 3, and then I found myself on the sideline Friday Night Lights again, you know, and I caught all the jitters and the bugs, you know, and I fell right back in love, you know. So then, I started to coach the secondary there in 14. Then that following year in 15, I got hooked up through the PA, and they got me an internship at a D2 school. And that was at Winston-Salem State, where I was an intern for about a month. And then they turned me into the safeties coach there and co-special team. Following that in 16, I left with the DC to Fayetteville State, and that's when I had my own room for the very first time, which was fun, scary, all that stuff, you know. So then my time there, then I actually got a phone call in 18, at the start of 18, and it was from a former OC at Wake. He happened to be the offensive line coach out at Air Force. He called and said, "Chip, are you interested in the secondary job here?" I said, "Hell yeah, I am." You know, so he got me in touch with Coach Troy Calhoun, Then I was there at Air Force for 2 years, and I got here with the Jets last February. I happened to be fortunate enough to be retained by Coach Sala, and it was an awesome transition, man. And my time here has been great so far. So that has been my path up until now.
That's awesome, Coach. And like you said at the beginning of the podcast, life it just comes at you fast, man. And one day you're getting prepared to hopefully get that ring from the Secret Service, and next thing you know, you're like a magnet, just sucked right back into that football field and getting those feels, and that's what it's all about. But now you're with the Jets, but you got a quote that you tend to tweet out. I've seen it said by you multiple times before. Keep grinding. You're not there yet. That's something that's central to your life philosophy. Where does this phrase come from, and what does it mean to you? What has it meant to you in this current situation? Right now you're with the Jets. A lot of people love to be sitting in that chair, but you're not there yet. So what's next?
Okay, so the start of that, the genesis of that started in 2019. We had won 2 straight games at Air Force. We had just beat a Power 5 team in CU, so we were kind of smelling ourselves a bit. We going up to Boise State, and man, we got our asses handed to us. Okay. And it was something that I preached all week, because I kind of had a sense that guys, were felt that they were better than they really were. Saturday night proved it. So that very next day, that's when 1DB started. And it was a focus point of that no matter how good you think you are, you're not that good. All right. And the fact that there's always room to grow, right? Like you have to get 1% better at something every single day. And I came up with that through my father and how he taught me, right? So he always had me in this mindset that if I'm ever going to do something, not only are you going to do it right, but you're going to have that internal drive to be the best at it, whatever it is, checkers, chess, tic-tac-toe, whatever it is, you want to be the best at that, right? And so that's where that whole thing started from, man. And just to have that mindset of every day when you wake up and your feet touch that ground, you have to have a plan, right? Like a plan to get better at something in your life. Now, with football-wise, it is scheme, technique, weights, sprint, something, but you have to get better, right? And it can apply to every walk of life, right? Like every person on this planet, you have to get better. If not, then you will get worse. But there's one thing is true, man. You never stay the same every day. And it's something that I got from Coach Grove back in college was he said, guys, listen, there's 2 things that happen every single day. You get better or worse, but you never stay the same. And that just stuck with me, man. And it holds true, so that's something that I beat into my guys every single day. And it's something that it holds myself accountable to that every day when I wake up. It's like, boom, all right, I got to send this out. This is what I'm doing. This is my schedule. Woo, woo, woo. Right. So it's actually been fantastic, man. So that's how everything started right there.
Yeah, that's I love that story because you coach interesting positions, especially when you start talking about some of those words like confidence and arrogance and cocky. And I don't mean any offense, but that defensive back, you kind of have that. I hate the term swag, man, because it got so played out over the years. But you have to have that kind of swag where you have to have a short memory. When you give up the slant. Or the touchdown, you have to have the confidence and really toe the line of arrogance and cockiness to be able to compete at that level against the type of guys that you're going to line up across, especially at the professional level, and that's funny. You said you could sense the guys feeling themselves too much as a defensive back coach, where you want to see some of that. How do you reel that kind of stuff in? I know you mentioned the keep grinding. You're not there yet, but more specifically with the defensive backs, because like you said, that's a general philosophy. I mean, I think a lot of people probably not necessarily say this quote, but live by it to a certain extent. When you start talking about DBs, you do want to encourage some of that confidence.
Right. And it is a very thin line between cocky and confident, but preparation is going to breed confidence. Right. Now, when you're confident, you don't have to boast about it, like all the rah-rah.
Right.
Me, right? That's the cocky stuff.
Yeah.
You don't have to do that.
Right.
But to keep a guy humble and on that edge, it's like, okay, I always tell all my guys, I want you to get to that edge. I want you there. All right. Let me as a coach pull you back. All right. But you have to get to that edge. I can handle that. All right. But as a player, I want you to get to that edge and turn it loose. Don't be scared of I can't be me or that. But to correct that and to keep them humble, man, is just you have to grade every blade of grass and be consistent as a coach every single day. It doesn't matter if they're your first string, second string, third string. You coach everybody the same exact way. All right. Because I always say this, right? I take the AK-47 approach, brother. The whole room can get it. It don't matter. Okay. Because I coach everybody the same exact way. All right. But on the flip side of it, as a coach, you can't just be hard on guys all the time, right? Because a player is going to tune you out so quickly. Mm-hmm. You've been there, right? So it's a player will play for a coach that shows him that he cares more about him off the field than he really does on the field. Like if a coach truly loves a player, then that player will go through hell and high water for him. All right, so that's the foundation of it, just showing that I truly love you, man, and that I want you to be the best version of yourself. I want you to make all conference. I want you to get drafted. I want you to get your second and third contract, be a Pro Bowler, Hall of Famer, right? Like I want my guys to know that I do this for you. Like I'm here. I'm game planning. I'm trying to find tendencies to make you better so you can shine and make plays. Yep. All right. So just all going back to loving these guys up. And as a coach, if you truly love them, then you will grade everything that they do.
Right. Well, let me rewind back just a little bit. And I'll mention a little story about myself. My first job when I finished playing at Baylor here in 2006, I got an opportunity over at Waco High School, but I had to coach the middle school football team, and I had to teach at the middle school. And to this day, it wasn't my favorite job by any means. I won't say that. But number one, I learned how to coach, and I thought I knew everything when I walked through those doors with a bunch of 12, 13-year-old young men, and I really learned how to coach. I really learned that I couldn't just go out there and say, "Hey, run a fade route." Coach, what's a fade route?
Right.
Yeah, just run fast down the field. You had to get technical. I had to teach the guys how to place their hands, and then honestly, when I moved on to my career and got the opportunity to coach, at the FBS level, I mean, I still found myself coaching guys in this very technical manner that allowed for me to hopefully, I would like to say I had some success there. Now you're coaching at the highest level at this very moment, but you had this beginning where you're at Fur High School out there in Houston area. What were some of the lessons that you learned in dealing with some of the high school kids that just kind of carried over regardless of what level that you were? Some of those things that you're like, yeah, man, this is an NFL guy, but this is the same thing I was doing with this, 16-year-old kid that never had a chance to play football beyond high school.
It's funny you asked that, man, because I was actually speaking with a friend about the same exact thing. And being a teacher is the same thing as a coach. And what helped me become a coach is just the preparation standpoint of it, right? Of having like your lesson plan down pat before you even try to teach a group, right? Like, so I taught back in 13 and 14 and like math changed. So I had to go back and study all these plans first, right? And so it just got me in this mindset of always being prepared, all right? And then finding a way to give the information to my students, right? Because I think a problem with football now, and it's probably been that way for a while, is that us as coaches, we tend to make the game hard. Like, we make the game harder than what it really is. You know, a curl flat is that, you know, 6 is 6, 4 is 4. But sometimes us as coach, we try to get a little too technical or wordy and try to sound like a scientist when we're really a football coach, right? There's only so many things that you can do. And so I think that we try to get a little too smart and show our kids, our guys, how smart we are.
Yeah.
Which is the wrong thing to do, because as a player, you've been there. You don't care how much your coach knows. You care about how can you give me this info so I can go out here and play fast and make plays, period. You know, so I'm always trying to find ways, how can I get on their level, to how can they understand this, right? And so the same way that I took that approach in 9th grade was the same thing how I did in the D2 world, D1, and now here in the league. It's the same person. They all learn a different way, right? Everybody has a different learning style, but at the same time, they're still a player. They're not a coach, right? Like they're trying to learn, right? So us as a coach is like, don't ever expect a player to get on your level.
Right.
That's where the disconnect is at, right? Us as coaches, we have to get on their level and understand what's the best way that little Johnny or Timmy or Chris can learn, right? And so I think that's been the most effective thing that I've gotten from being a teacher, was being able to get on to my students' level just to drive home that.
Absolutely. I totally agree. It just kind of brought me back. I just started coaching college ball, and my staff, we took a trip down and hung out with the staff that was relatively close to our campus. You know, it was a bigger school, and man, we sat in the office, and I remember sitting there taking notes from, you know, their offense coordinator, head coach. You know, we were hanging out with them before they saw the kids, and man, I was relatively young, and so I once again was getting my feet wet, trying to learn the game, offensive line stuff. You know, just stuff I wasn't familiar with. And he was talking Chinese, man, and I was just trying to keep up. And they were like, all right, come on, fellas, you know, follow us into the meeting. We're going to go talk to the kids. I was like, man, if these kids can get this, and I'm struggling, like, man, there's no way. And he broke it down. So, you know, he brought it down 100 levels and was like, hey, man, you got this, you got this, you got this. It wasn't all technical. And that's when I really started enjoying the beauty of coaching, because he knew 100 ways to say it. But ultimately, when it was time to talk to the players, he didn't want to give them the opportunity to have that paralysis by analysis, you know, overthinking stuff. Just wanted the kids to go play fast. And I really appreciate that, man, especially early in my career, just seeing the difference of how his knowledge base versus how he delivered it. Just giving them the pieces that they could chew and keeping it no more than that.
Yeah, man, that's great, man, because I tell you what, man, Troy Calhoun is an awesome coach, but an even better man. Like, he actually, like, coaches up his coaches. All right, so from what I got from him was that same exact thing. You know, he's like short and sweet, buzzwords that can trigger a thought, right?
Right.
And so it's, man, like, he definitely changed my whole thought process as a coach. Man.
Yeah.
Like, he is probably one of the top 3 guys that I ever met that just knows the game inside and out, like every phase of the game. Man, it's awesome. You know, like, I don't think he gets enough credit. In fact, I think that whole staff, man, like, everybody there is awesome. Like, anybody who I ever encountered, you know, and it's part of that growth mindset of being uncomfortable, right? Because I can literally tell you every day there I was uncomfortable, but in a sense of, man, it's new. Man, it's kind of weird. I don't know if I should say this, or I haven't heard that before, right? But I always had this flashback of there's no growth in comfort. Like, embrace that, right? Like, embrace challenging times, embrace adversity, right? And so that is what kind of drove me to want to do, like, internships and apply for things, even though I knew it was either a long shot or I was going to be up against some awesome guys. It was like, okay, Chip, you have to get out of your comfort zone, jump off the porch and just go, right? Because you can't succeed unless you fail, right? So don't ever be afraid to fail in that sense.
Yeah, man, I'm happy you mentioned that, because I was going to actually ask you a couple of things about some of the professional development opportunities, especially with so much of your philosophy being that, you know, you're not there yet, keep grinding, get better, that growth mindset that you just mentioned. You know, you partook in the NFL-NCAA Coaches Academy. You were part of the Bill Walsh diversity deal where I think you went and coached with the Saints for a little bit. With that deal, and obviously, like you said, that stuff is important. Number one, it keeps your tools sharpened, and then also it lets you get out your comfort zone, go compete, get around some people that you don't know. Now, I did want to ask you about this. You were able to be a part of our 2020 35 under 35 Leadership Institute class, and that has become, especially, you know, you were part of that 2020 class. It's become more and more competitive every single year. I mean, it's my favorite time, but my least favorite time, because I got a ton of coaches blowing me up saying, "Coach, what do I got to do to get in?" I'm like, man, it's just a lot of really good coaches that apply. Just talk to us a little bit about that experience. You know, what being a member of that very elite group meant to you.
Oh man, so as you just stated, man, you know, like leading into it, you know, I thought it was a very prestigious thing, and you know, I was really nervous to submit the things that I did, because it was really a technique that I kind of been toying around with. I was like, let me see if somebody else thinks this will work, right? You know, like, am I onto something, or I'm just tripping, you know? So to find out that, like, the technique that I did actually worked and it was effective, and that somebody else liked it, I was like, okay, right, this is cool. You know, it's like a little bit of affirmation in that sense, you know. But going there, man, and just being in that room, it's like an energy, man. I can't really describe it, but, like, you know that you're in the presence of greatness, right? Like, there's, like, great people in this room, and you're definitely not the smartest one in here. So sit back, listen, and absorb everything that you possibly can, you know, because that's something that I strive not to ever be. Like, I don't ever want to be the smartest person in any room, you know, but just being there and hear these guys just talk about their experiences and things that they've been through, and have the guest speakers talk about their road and the stuff that they're trying to look for in a DC head coach, you know, and then just having that time to speak with guys between sessions, you know, the event at the very end when, like, everybody gets to let their hair down and just chill out and just talk more than ball, you know, about life stuff.
Yeah.
You know, it's fantastic, man. It's a awesome fraternity to be a part of, and I really just see it getting bigger and bigger each year, you know. But from the coaches that been there, man, there's some heavy hitters out there, man. Heavy hitters, man. I'm just so fortunate and blessed just to be accepted into it.
Yeah, well, we're blessed for you to be a representative and an ambassador of that program, man. You know, we try to do a thorough job of finding guys with some good career trajectory, and lo and behold, as soon as we left there, I think you were taking another job, and you know, that's and not just you, it was multiple guys. You know, they're getting promoted with, you know, within their staffs. A couple of them are head coaches now, Division I head coaches, and Power 5 coordinators and NFL coaches, and so that lets us know, number one, we're trying to do the right thing and with the selection process, and number two, that you know, getting good guys around each other, you know, opens up doors for each other, and we're super excited about that. So thanks again for talking a little bit about that. But before I let you go here, Coach, I want you to get an opportunity to drop your Twitter account so coaches can follow you, keep up with the journey, ask you questions if they got any, all that good stuff.
Hey, all right, fellas. So the Twitter's Coach_C Vaughn. All right, you guys can drop a DM, a tweet, anything like that. IG is Coach_C_Vaughn. Shoot me anything, guys, and I will hit you right back, man. I love to talk ball. Us as a staff up here, we report on the 22nd. Then our guys come in the 27th, man, and then we're locked and loaded into the second week of January.
Sir.
So we have a real good vibe up here now. The energy up here is great. We can't wait until we get this thing kicked off, man.
Well, I'm excited about keeping up with you, man. I'm gonna be watching those back end guys for the Jets here this season. I hope they play well, man, and I hope you do well. Look forward to touching base with you soon. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you, brother.
All right,
have a good one.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Inside the Headset. If you heard anything on this episode that you would like to learn more information about, head over to afcapodcast.com, where you can find every episode and all of the corresponding show notes. While you're there, take a second to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions for the show, please let us know by sending an email to podcast@afca.com. Make sure to follow the podcast on Twitter @InsideTheHeadset and tag it when you share each episode. You can stay up to date with all things AFCA by following the @WeAreAFCA Twitter account. Every episode of Inside the Headset can also be found on your favorite audio streaming platforms such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. If you are not currently a member of the AFCA, be sure to find us online at afca.com and apply to join over 10,000 NFL, college, and high school coaches from around the country who are striving to be the best they can be. With an AFCA membership, you gain invaluable access to the annual AFCA convention, the bi-monthly magazine, and the new and improved digital library, which contains thousands of videos and articles contributed by hundreds of current and former football coaches. You can also visit afcainsider.com to sign up for our free weekly email newsletter on the right-hand side of the screen. It comes out every Tuesday at lunch and is filled with great articles and stories written by many of the same coaches you hear on the podcast. It's geared to help you become a better coach tomorrow than you are today. Be sure to connect with me on Twitter @CoachMarioPrice, and remember, the AFCA is not just an annual convention. It is an association that continually promotes education, guidance, and networking. But it is also so much more than that. The AFCA is about celebrating the past and educating the future. It is about developing great coaches who will produce great teams and even better people. So invest in your skill set and impact today by engaging with the AFCA.